All right, so the topic for today is school, but more specifically, we're gonna be talking about the grading system and why we think that the entire grading system is dumb, and that started from elementary school all the way through college. Yeah, so I mean, you wanna start off elementary school? Well, I mean,
You
elementary and
start
middle
off.
school, we could kind of group those together because things change a little bit
Yeah,
in high school, and then obviously college is different. But elementary and middle
yeah,
school is relatively the same.
yeah,
Well, at least for me personally, the elementary school I went to, they gave out number grades, which was dumb as hell. I don't know why. Instead of A, B, C, D, they gave 1, 2, 3, 4. And I was a nerd. I was a good kid. I would always get all fours. But like my teachers always say, doesn't participate enough in class. And it's like I kind of understand. Like, okay, no, I don't understand. Why is participation like? Why is that a thing? Why does that need to be graded? I get it at least like at high school, college, sure, but in like elementary, middle school, like there's not that much collaboration that needs to be happening for that type of material. Does that make sense? And then at the same time, like they would be graded on participation, but if you were like an extremely social, talkative kid, then they would get mad at you. You'd be getting yellow cars, red cars, all types of stuff. Like, so
I remember
like,
that. Yeah,
like you had to be the perfect balance of participate, sociable, but also know when not to talk too much, and all of that in first grade. like what? Damn, you got some high expectations of these kids.
when you were in like elementary and middle school, like, did you guys do the thing where it's like the teacher would just randomly call on you, that type of thing? Like, how did participation work? They like, oh, hands raised, or like they did like, oh, teacher would just randomly pick on you, and like if you responded correctly, then you got participation. Like,
Well, it was like if somebody raised their hand, then they would let them answer. But if nobody raised their hand, then they would just call on somebody randomly.
okay, that's exactly how they did it for us too. Yeah,
But the
exactly.
thing
Yeah.
is, for me, like, it wasn't that I was afraid to participate or like I didn't participate in class. It was just like certain subjects I was stronger in, more confident in than others. Like in English class, I didn't really feel I wasn't a bad reader. I still read above my grade level. I just didn't want to. So like if they asked
Yeah.
who wants to read this, I'm not raising my hand. But in math class, when they asked the questions, I was raising my hand every single time. But the teacher was like, "No, you can't answer. Somebody
Yeah.
else." So
Bro,
like,
that, bro,
it's not like I'm
that
just
was
a kid that
annoying.
doesn't participate. It was just depending on the subject. If I like the subject more,
Bro, that was freaking annoying. Like, when like you're on it that day, like you just know everything. You're getting everything. But then you raise your hand, like the teacher pretends like she don't see you. Like what? Like I'm raising my hand.
they would literally be like, "No, not you. Anybody else, not you."
No. That made me feel good. That made me feel good though. Like when they like, nah, not you. Then yeah. But when it was like the point where you were just raising your hand, like we have long wingspans, so it's like we're raising our hand, like everyone can see it, but I pretend like they can't see. Like, Emilio, what do you think what the answer is? Like that type of thing, like forced inclusion of like people. I mean, that's the thing though. Like, I know they want participation to be like, oh, to prove that like, oh, so and so, oh, we're trying to get them involved. Basically, to get a gauge of like where people are, because if everyone's participating, you know who's strong and who's weak. Versus like if they don't participate, it's like you don't really know unless you're grading their classwork, yada yada. It's like yeah, you won't know. Because I guess in their minds, it's like participation encourages them to like learn what's
But
going
they
on.
see though, they
Like that
see
type
when
of
you
thing,
bring
so.
in your homework and every answer is wrong, then they know okay,
Exactly,
this student
yeah.
is not getting it. But if I'm
Yeah.
the student that's getting all fours, which is the equivalent of all A's, and I'm not participating as much, why does it matter? I did all the homework, I aced all the tests. Like, why do you care?
You're not special, Chris. You have to participate with the rest of the class.
But like, if I did that in math class, they'd be like, "No, shut up! You participate too much." Like, like, bro, what do you want from me, bro? See, the thing is, like, I get they like want to get everyone involved. They want us to like, but even then, it's like not even interacting in some capacity. Because like we very rarely, I remember up until like middle school, and even then, we almost never had group work. It was almost always just the teacher up there talking and asking us random
Exactly.
questions, and then they would give us a random worksheet here and there, and you could talk to the one person to the side of you, not both of them, only one.
Yeah.
And then and that was it. They would like time us like 15 minutes, complete this worksheet, and then that was it. But like in terms of like group projects, we didn't do that until high school. Really, like up like all the way through middle school. Aside from like science fair, that's the only time I can remember doing a group project. Science fair and Mesa, like extracurricular activities. That's the only time I can remember doing a group project before high school.
Yeah, same thing. Like if it was like it was always like a partnership. Like like we're your partner. Check with the neighbor next to you, see what they got, that type of thing. Yeah, that's the thing though. Like going back to like the whole like voluntary participation. Like when it got to points where like no one wanted to participate that day, or like for that question like no one said anything, then the teachers always had favorites who they picked on. You know this. Like they'll be like, okay, Brian, what's the answer? And like they'll be like, Brian isn't even here today. Like they'll like just mention his name. Like that's happened many times.
They're
I was like,
low-key bullies, bro. They would choose
do,
on
yeah.
the person that they knew didn't know the answer. They knew
Exactly,
for a fact
exactly,
they know
yeah.
the answer. Or if you weren't paying attention, and then they'll be like, all right, Carl, what line are we on in the reading?
Oh no, bro! You know the funniest part was like when the students like they'll like, bro, like if you were paying attention, you would just say, "Oh, it's line 12." But like they'll be like they'll grab the book, open it, they'll be like and they're looking at their partner. They look at their partner and like they look up and like the partner points to it, is like, oh
Yeah.
We're on page 59, line 3.
You can literally see them open the book after.
Yeah, I literally open the
question,
book when they
caught.
ask. Exactly, yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know. I don't really mind that as much.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Like, yeah, if you're not paying attention, you should be called out for it. Like, we're in freaking elementary school. We had nothing. We had no bills to pay. We had nothing to pay.
Where I think it was mean is when it was something that like the student just didn't understand. Not that they weren't paying attention. Like, say for like a math question, for example. Like if they just weren't, like if they were writing on the board and like the student just couldn't figure out how to solve it. Like, if they were asking the students that they knew couldn't get it, or if they... I mean, I guess that they need the extra assistance, but it wouldn't be something like, what's the next step here, or whatever. Like, there wasn't as much nuance as I think that there should have been. It was just like, what's the answer? And they'll be like...
That's the thing, though. Like, that's even recurrent today. Like, even in some classes, I'll be like, okay, Chris, like, so it'd be a subject you don't really know, but they're like, oh, Chris, like, to walk us through like the next step. It's like I don't know. Like, I really don't know. That's the thing though. Like, for that, I guess I'm a little bit more lenient on terms of like whether it should be allowed, because like I think again the whole thing is like, oh, trying to get you alert and like making sure that you know the material. The only thing I vehemently like I disagree with is the whole reading thing. Like, if some people are challenged with reading, don't ask them to read, because everyone's just gonna make fun or laugh when like they get called out. Oh, George, read for us. The cow jumped over the moon. No, like you just have a problem reading. Like, their fluency isn't their strong suit, but like a lot of things that could be. There's many reasons for that, but at the same time, it's like that's not their strong suit. Like, don't pick them out for that.
And having them read in front of the class is not going to help them. They need to read independently more and become more fluent and more competent. Like,
exactly.
If anything, them having to go through the embarrassment of like reading in front of the class, that might traumatize them and discourage them from reading further in the future.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because especially in like middle school, when we're like kind of cognizant and like a little more socially aware, but also extremely immature, and people make fun of you.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that a lot of people talk about the struggles they've gone through as like, of course, like we detailed like our own like struggles, not necessarily academically, but like in terms of like the social aspect of like growing up, but like in terms of like our body types, in terms of like what we feared people would think of us, that different type of things. Like, of course, like if everyone in class is making fun of you, especially if it's early on in the school year too, like that would just turn you off. Like, you won't want to associate with like all of your classmates, because like you feel like they're the bullies, like they don't really want to appreciate you, all that different type of stuff like that. You want to go to a place where like you feel like appreciated. And even like in a math problem, like it's something you clearly don't get, and like the teacher asks you, and like it's clearly easy to like everyone else, but like you don't get that, and like you just at that point you're just thinking like, damn, like everyone knows I don't know this material. Like, it's one thing for you to personally know that you're not doing well with the classwork, yada yada yada, but it's one thing for everyone else to know that like, oh, this guy clearly doesn't get it. Like, this guy's not right in the head, like that type of thing like that. You're gonna be saying things about you. Like obviously no kid needs to go through that. Like, again, that's can help shape up negatively who they will be, or like certain personality traits that they will have. So,
all right, one more thing real quick. And a lot of people will say like, oh, it's good to shame them, that should motivate them to read more and improve. I have that mindset now as an adult. I did not think that way when I was 12. I did not have the mental fortitude to fight, like, to see my deficiency and look at it as this is something I need to work on. At that point in time, I was like, nah, fuck that. I don't want to do that. That scares me. People make fun of me.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I just felt scared to do it.
When you're a kid and very impressionable and you care a lot about what people think and you don't have the, like I said, the mental fortitude to fight through that and continue to try to improve at that, it is extremely discouraging as a kid.
Thing. I guess we could talk about parent-teacher conferences before we move into like tests and stuff like that. So, what do you think about those? Were they pointless? Were productive? Like, what did parents or teachers get out of that talk?
I will say that they were pointless for this reason and this reason only. If there were students that were really messing up in class and weren't performing well and they were talking all the time, the students that the parents really needed to talk, I mean, the teachers really needed to talk to that student's parents, they already called them anyway. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, for the vast majority of the students, like, you would just show up and they would be like, yeah, your kid's doing well. And then you would just go home. That was literally how the parent-teacher conference went for me every year. Like, my mom or my dad, sometimes my dad would show up too, because, my dad works a lot. But if he had time, he would show up, or a lot of times it would just be my mom. We would show up, they would just be like, yeah, Chris is good. And then we would go to the next teacher, yeah, Chris is good. Go to the next, it was just, like, hella pointless.
I guess let's move on to, like, pet peeves about, like, the grades. So, my pet peeves of tests is that, like, it's always inconsistent what they're testing us for. And the teachers are never transparent as to what it's testing for. Like, some tests will be like, okay, you study the text, and basically the test is going to be the application of what you know. So it won't be like, oh, who signed the Declaration of Independence? It'll be like, okay, like, because so-and-so signed Declaration of Independence, like, what historical event today is, like, most likely, and they'll give you multiple choice or, like, free response, that type of thing. There'll be those type of questions, but then there'll be, like, freaking other questions where it's like, okay, like, names of people. This is just memorization. Like, what are you testing us on? Like, do you want to test us on, like, oh, the application of that knowledge, or the actual specific, like, dates, or, like, the thing of that? Like, it gets annoying, exactly. Like,
and especially once you got to college, well, first of all, practice tests just didn't exist. But
yeah, they didn't. Yeah.
Second of all, they would always be on BS. They would be like, all right, the test is on these chapters. The entire chapter, like, even though the test is, say each chapter is like 50 pages, the test is 1 page. And you're just telling me that the test is going to have material from these 2 chapters. That tells me fucking nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay, and another thing, in terms of just grading for college specifically, because, we still had homework graded in high school, but it was mostly for completion.
Yeah.
Don't understand why they grade homework in college for correctness. When can I be wrong? When is the time to learn? I don't understand. Now, it's one thing I would understand if you just looked at the answer and the student is completely BSing it. They're just throwing some shit on the paper just to have answers. I get why you would mark that wrong. But if you can see that the student tried to apply the formula, or if they tried to solve in the same manner, like, you could tell they looked at the notes and they tried to get to the answer using the same strategy that they used in the notes, and the answer just ended up being wrong because maybe they accidentally forgot a minus here, or
they rounded,
or if they rounded, or if they took
the decimals off,
took a derivative wrong on accident, like, they forgot to bring down the exponent, whatever. If you could tell, like, if you can follow the path and say, oh, you messed up right here, why do I have to, like, lose a point for that? Why is that not full credit? You can literally see that I applied everything correctly. I just made a simple mistake that has nothing to do with me BSing the problem or not understanding at all. It literally was like a simple mistake, or even if I didn't understand, but I still tried it, and you can see, like, the train of logic, like the way that I attempted to solve the problem. And if I got it completely wrong, why does that not count for homework credit? This is not a test. This is not testing my competency. This is showing that I attempted to do the problems that were assigned. That is what homework is.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. Like, of course, homework's supposed to help us out. Like, literally, like, We need every
Yeah.
break you can get in college. Like literally, like the courses
Yeah.
are difficult. Like some courses, there's no like a free course essentially. Like you have to work your ass off for every course. And that's the thing though. Like some courses is like, you know what? I know the information like anyway. Like the homework is going to be good. I don't have to worry about it. Like some courses, like you said, like Calc 3 or like all these other courses, like physics, like those courses like require a lot of like application, like you said, of the equations, of like different knowledge, yada yada yada. Sometimes you don't even know how to start the problem. But it's like because those classes, and that's the thing though, like those classes are freaking BS in terms of like the grading scale. It'll be like, oh, 50% test and like 10% homework,
Yeah.
10% participation. And now participation is literally just like signing up the sign up sheet and like coming to class and like answering a few questions. You have to answer like twice.
And then it'll be like 30% quizzes, which is basically just
40% quiz.
80%
Exactly.
test at that point. Like, come on,
Yeah, exactly. And it's BS because, like, bro, like college is so freaking BS in terms of freaking tests. Like, I've never remember that one class, physics class you had in high school, where basically the average test was like 60% for every single test that we took as a class.
Yeah.
That was even with like the brainiacs like getting like 80% and that being like some legendary score.
Yeah.
Like that was a thing. That's a recurrent thing in college. Like it'll literally be like, oh, everyone got like a 70 and like the teacher won't round because one person got like a 90 and they don't want to give that person 120%. Like that's how we think. Like every single math class, every single physics class, like they're all like that, where it's like the average score is like a 65% out of 100, but oh, we can't round it because like, oh yeah. So if the scores are gonna be that low for the test, and that's not even our fault. Like it's a recurring thing every year that the scores are low. Why? And we can't drop the test either. Why aren't you just giving us the pass with the homework?
Okay, real quick. Okay, that was another thing with homework. Well, okay, one, they would always intentionally pick the problems that weren't in the back of the book. And two, there would always be one problem that was complete BS that nobody in the class
no one know how to solve it.
Like you would text your friend, you would text like 3 people, and they would all text their friends, and nobody had the answer. Nobody.
Yeah, no one had the answer. Exactly.
We would all turn it in, and then the teacher would be like, "I see you guys are struggling with this one." And
bro, you didn't teach this. Like they didn't even teach the problem.
Well, okay, first of all, they would do that, and they would teach us how to do the problem afterwards. But you still got that point mark down for not completing that question. Like they didn't just say, "Oh, I'll let this one be a." Nah, you're still getting marked down for not completing that problem. The entire class got that point off.
I think we discussed about this like I think of like 1,000 years ago. But like we were talking about like how like some professors like, oh, no one has ever passed my class. It's so like why do you take pride in that? Like why do you take pride? Doesn't that make you a bad professor that like no one's ever passed your class? Like, you know, no, the subject matter is just that difficult. I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I'm never gonna give a student a free A or like free grades, but like, I'm not gonna be the teacher that like doesn't allow a student to graduate. Like, it won't be my class that won't let them walk. Like, as long as they tried their hardest and like did extremely well and like their GPA needed a certain requirement, I'd help. If it's a reasonable amount, I'd help bump them up. That type of thing. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you comment down below whether you agree or disagree with what we said. What do you feel needs to be changed about the educational system in terms of like the grading? Grading, all that type of stuff like that. And hope to see you guys next one.
Appreciate y'all. See y'all next time. Peace.